Greetings, greetings. Hope everyone is well rested and had a really good rest. So this is Body-Culinary, welcoming you to a new day. You made it to the other side. So hopefully you turned off the computers and you got some good rest. Don't mind the roosters in the background, if perhaps you can hear them. So today I'm just coming on this early day. I'm an early riser for just a quick share around radical, or at least what I call radical self acceptance. And for me, what how that shows up, or one of the ways that that shows up, is in full acceptance and appreciation of my natural features. Now, I've never been a big makeup wearer. If anything, I really was addicted. Not addicted. I really enjoyed um, lip gloss. Sometimes it got really plasticky. Um, Thank you, thank you. It is woolly. Greetings, Your Highness. It actually is not very dense at all, and I'll touch on that in a moment. But I really have enjoyed, if anything, putting first, I think, could have been Vaseline when I was younger on my eyelashes because I wasn't allowed to wear makeup. And then that went to castor oil, which was big. Olive oil and castor oil was big in my family on the southern side. And then I graduated at some point to L'Oreal mascara, which I really, really enjoyed. Fast forward, at some point, I started experiencing a lot of acne, a tremendous amount of acne, a tremendous amount of scarring all over my face. So from time to time, I will still get a breakout around my cycle, or if I have, even though I eat very, very healthy, but just too much food is too much food. So my body is sensitive to too much fat. And just being overstuffed with food, even if it is healthy food. So that's been an ongoing process of listening, of really paying attention and listening more to my body, more than to what health experts say. So I can learn from anyone, but I run it through my own internal common sense computer, and I also go by my results, right? And so I really enjoy being able to see my skin and what's going on in terms of my health and my body. The other thing is, you know, before we go to school, we don't really know anything about our hair that is ugly or it's unacceptable. We don't know anything about weaves and anything. And if anything, we are mimicking when we're little girls how we see the women that are older than us, how they beautify themselves, right? You watch your mom in the mirror getting ready to go out. I remember my mom wearing a press and curl, what they used to call a mushroom, with the curl used to be curled under. So I remember that. I do remember my mom wearing afro puffs, like a cute little afro puff. I don't know what they called it back then, but she had some cute styles back in the day. I remember Mary Kay makeup. I remember the pink and green mascara, which was like a mystery to me. Watching my mom get ready to go out, or watch my mom and my dad when they had a house party, a little Caribbean house party. So I remember those things. I also remember I had an auntie that could braid really well, and she gave me the best cornrows. You know, I don't know if any of you women out there can remember getting your hair pressed and curled. So remember getting popped with the comb to keep still as this searing, dangerously hot comb is going by your ears, and sometimes the Dixie peach or the green or whatever grease or whatever pomade, hair grease, petroleum based hair grease with the hot comb is melting on your ear, and you're being popped to stay still so the burn doesn't get any worse. So sometimes it would catch little pieces of your skin. If you think about it, those are really dangerous burns. And then when you go outside to play, you sweat it. It comes right back to this, right? You sweat it all out. And so for me, this has been a journey going on of about 30 years of a return to natural, because we're born natural, right? We are born natural in all our glory with our unique beauty stamp, with our unique beauty stamp. And many of us, if we knew now or we knew today, for those of us wanting to experience the glory of our crown and all that it can do, if only we had known better and hadn't been so conditioned from TV trying to look like a lot of what we see on TV, the Brady Bunch, whatever shows that we enjoyed. Even we saw Michael Jackson, right? I used to watch the Jackson 5 cartoon. You still mostly saw, if anything, men mostly with afros. The last time, though, I saw really funky afros was on Soul Train. coming up, but that was in the 70s, right? So fortunately, on one side of my family there was Rastas. I didn't get to see them very much. My sweet grandmother was a kitchen beautician. She would press anything straight. My heart would be racing when she got to the edges. Ouch. Not only ouch, and they didn't, I don't think they had bad intentions, right? But that was grooming back then. And we took great pride in whatever one or two outfits or white shirts that we had, making sure they were clean and pressed, for church. That was the standard back then. And I like to acknowledge that many elders, they did the best that they could with what that they knew. But it's for us to carry the baton further, right? It's no big secret that, it's only in recent decades that you will even see locks, right? And even in my family coming up, locks were not held in esteem when I was growing up. So when I saw one of my cousins that was Rasta, I didn't get to see her, but there was another one more closer to me. And when I got to see this full head of hair, and when she would wash it, she was so clean. Her hair had this distinct scent. Now I know what the scent was. It was an oil she put in her hair, but her hair smelled so clean and beautiful and fresh. Like I had never smelled anything so beautiful. And when she would shake up her hair, when she would take her scarf off, and I was like, wow, I had never seen a Black woman with such full hair. Now think about that. With chocolate women, and I had never seen a woman with such a beautiful, glistening, healthy, bushy fro of hair that had had some length. And I think about that, maybe her hair was right about maybe like here. So that was, to me, I was like, wow, can you imagine? I had never seen that. Now I did see on the southern side of my family, my great grandma, well, two of my great grandmas and my grandma Lou, who I talk about all the time. I didn't see them with I didn't see them with perms. I saw them with their natural hair. Now, one of my great grandmas, she had a natural hair, but I saw older pictures of her with a wig on for church, right? With the old cat glasses for church. But my grandma Lou, I saw her rock her cornrows in natural styles, and I always saw her with her own skin. I never saw her with makeup. And she never seemed pressed about it. She was just very comfortable in her own skin. The same thing, her grandma or her mom, my great grandma Jean, very dark chocolate woman. But I saw those women just comfortable and confident in their skin. You know, granted, they were more mature, but they were just very comfortable in their skin. So this is how we're learning. We're comparing and contrasting the adults that we see behind us. And of course, around the holidays and all the aunties and the women are in the kitchen, it may be talking trash or talking about their men or sharing anecdotes or sharing recipes or doing a check-in, usually around the holidays. So I remember as a little girl listening to all these things. Now, fast forward as we get older and this starts coming out and I get around my cousins, I want to look like them. Now, mind you, when I was younger, at one point I said to my daddy, can I get hair like that, like my cousin who was the Rasta? And he said, if you ever put those dirty Rasta locks in your hair, you'll never get a penny from me. So then that was that. But otherwise, based on what I saw, healthy, clean smelling as she shook up her knots and also her character, I wanted to mimic that. That was discouraged. So I did have one auntie that gave me some really beautiful cornrows with beads in it. I wish I could have gotten that all the time. I wasn't a great braider. My mother knew how to put plaits in my hair, which weren't very stylish, but my hair was all on my head, right? And so later on, I always wanted to cornrow. I never became a good cornrower, but I did master double strand twists, which actually felt better on my head. When I started traveling, yes, and I stayed for some time outside of the United States. There was one point I was living, pretty much in the bush area off grid. And I didn't have any products or anything available to me. If anything, I had what was left over of some olive oil. And every now and then I got a little coconut oil. But when that ran out, that was it. So all I had was the natural water from the creek to bathe in. And so I have my fine, delicate, very delicate hair that is not actually very dense at all. It started to get very, very tangled. And I would try to pick it out with a safety pin and lost a lot of hair. And it was just too much. It was too hot. It just became too much. So finally I decided, well, I've done everything natural, from a fro to double strand twist to a short peach fuzz cut with design. So if it wants to lock, just let it lock. Let's see where it goes. I could always cut it off, right? And so it was, I say often, it's been like going natural all over again because it is a continued journey of self acceptance. One of the wonderful things with being natural, and I would definitely say with what I would call semi freeform locks, because I do keep them separate so I don't have one big kanganati. Um, but I don't have any products in my hair. So I've gone back and forth with oil in my hair. So I'm in a very hot environment. It's probably going to go up to 103 degrees today. It's going to get real hot, but I give thanks for the heat. So as somebody that's very prone to acne and it's in the garden a lot, oil can get trapped in my skin. I produce a lot of oil, and all that can contribute to a lot of acne. Also, somebody with very fine hair, which looks full, by the way, because I'm not twisting it. I started out with double strand twists and then let it go. And it has body to it, which is a concern, because our hair grows this way, but when it gets a little bit of weight or length to it, then it will drop down. So sometimes I think some of us are so anxious because we don't know what the hair is going to do next. So forbid you leave this out with no products on it to lay it or to slick it. I love grooming, but it's just too much. It's too much. And I have other things to do. In addition, what's huge for me on this radical, I call it radical self-acceptance journey, is taking that off of the table. I've taken, and I take the validation of others. I take it off the table. And I have found that relieves so much stress, right? If you look at I'm not knocking or demonizing anybody for whatever their personal grooming practices are. Again, grooming and beautifying is something that we do naturally as women. I love flowers and oiling myself. And, however, what I'm thinking of is radical self acceptance has tremendous implications when it comes to um, our esteem and our with esteem. And if I had to look back, some years ago and speak to myself in my 20s, even my teens, in my 20s and my 30s, that looking at television programs and magazines and constantly, if we think of the thoughts, or I can share my thoughts, but I want to look like this, I want this style, all the guys seem to be going after this style. It's constantly seeking validation. That also coincides with many of us maybe not having got a certain kind of conversations or doting from our fathers, right? From our fathers. And even if we had our fathers in our lives, when we get older and we start going out into the world and we experience other men that don't dote on us, we start turning ourselves inside out to be accepted, right? Popular culture gives us messages about what is acceptable in the workplace. Will you be will you get a promotion? Will you be looked over, if you go out to a wedding or a party, if you show up as yourself? And just from my humble perspective, especially as a woman and especially as a chocolate woman, I would dare say it contributes to a lot of, I would say it can contribute to depression, mental illness, just not feeling comfortable in your skin. If you look at the anxiety, the undercurrent, right, of anxiety, even though we're sold, you will feel more confident. Or when you beautify, you do a makeover, now you can be confident. But it's like, why can't we be just comfortable and relaxed in our own skin? So I call it like the Jedi mind trick. There's like, it's something that's supposed to be selling you one thing, but if you really look at what's really being sold, and what I'm always fascinated by what drives, our behavior. And from my perspective, it's like this thing, we rush to get more outfits and we rush to get more makeup, and then we rush to go out and parade in the streets. And it's not a negative thing because part of it is natural socialization. But there's such a tremendous pressure. I mean, let's look at our makeup bags. Let's look at let's look at our wardrobes. Many of us have more clothes than we could ever possibly wear. There's almost like a mania. There's a mania. And I would dare say it contributes to a lot of depression, which can lead to us indirectly being overweight because we're munching, we're eating mindlessly, to relieve stress. And, all of these thoughts that are going on in the back of our head around not being accepted or I'm not beautiful. So we have to really listen to the underlying motivation of a lot of the thoughts that are in the front of our mind, right? To our subconscious. Like our subconscious is driving, and I'm not saying this to be esoteric at all. It's very practical. If we look at what is driving our behavior, so quite often we're moving at such a pace that we can't hear, or we may not be very reflective about what is driving our mindless eating, what is driving our consumption. Like when we don't feel satiated, we don't feel comfortable. We can even eat to the point of overstretching our organs and our waistlines because we're mindless. But there's a thought process, there's a narrative, there's a ticker tape that's going on all the time that doesn't shut up and that is easily manipulated, right? So this journey of radical self-acceptance, um, I found that it allows me to be comfortable in my skin. I would call it a very practical living meditation. So I've shared before on this channel, I went through again, just in my journey, just very intuitively, a period of several years where I took off everything. Now, I didn't have a lot of makeup on, but I definitely had a lot of acne. And so I didn't want anything contributing to it. So I had taken off my earrings. And the first time I had taken off my earrings, I felt like, whoa, I got to put them back on because I had just gotten so used to wearing them. And my mascara, when I took it off, it's just this feeling when you take it off that you don't feel pretty. And that was kind of, I found that kind of bothersome. Like, wow, I don't feel pretty if I take these things off. So I purposefully took it off, right? Even the lip gloss. And it was natural from the health food store. But I took it off. And so many of my clients noticed, my clients, sometimes they would gift me with things at different points of the year and the holidays. And they were like, if I buy you this, are you gonna wear this? And I would say, no, I'm not. Are you going to take off everything? And I was like, yeah, I'm comfortable with my skin. And then also, health is a very big priority for me, not just physical health, but my mental and my emotional health. So I found a lot of things. I would say, again, I'm not saying because it's really hot here, it's going up to 100 and something degrees, y'all. So um, I also found all of this anxiety a distraction, especially also someone that likes to be, play and be very physical. I can't be dripping foundation um, as I'm working out and I'm sweating and exercising and I'm playing. Or I found it very annoying to go to hug somebody and I'm leaving a big brown face print, on their shirt. It just felt like, why should I have to do this again? I want to make a distinction. I'm not saying not to beautify or appreciate, but what I'm saying is like, why can't I be good enough? But the thing is, we're asking for outside validation. So it really, I found it's like, I say I'm good enough. That's through all the different phases of, your breasts change shape when you breastfeed. I had my son at home and I breastfed him. um, you go through, you look different in your teens and your 20s and your 30s, and just this whole thing of somebody setting the tone for what's attractive. I felt like, no, it's even like health and exercise, to feel like I have to get more outfits. I have to have a gym membership, constantly waiting for outside approval and validation. I think, especially the chocolate woman, I think can really, it can contribute to feeling very, very down. I don't like to claim the depression word, but I think obviously in seeing a world where a good part of where we see increasing amounts of the population are being medicated um, for the way that we feel about ourselves, and stress and anxiety, which I always feel like is really crazy. Again, I think, did my grandmothers, did they need to be medicated? And I'm sure they had their stuff. My great grandmothers, both of them lived into almost a century, as well as my grandma lived almost a century. So can you imagine the different types of stresses that they experienced in the South, in the Black South, and in the Black South, and also in the Caribbean, right? Without a bunch of um, resources. Maybe there was church, and that had its limitations. So, in this journey, it's like, this is what it grows out, and this is what it does. So, the thing that I found, again, because you don't know sometimes what your hair is going to do, and you're looking at all these tutorials, and you're hoping that your hair looks like this and it looks like that. But it's like I say radical self-acceptance because this is what it is. And one of the reasons I really love Rasta women because they've always looked so beautiful without needing a lot of makeup. So again, this is not to demonize makeup, but this is, so I just water rinse my hair. I can see there are some little grays starting to pop up, so I'm not going to dye them because I don't need to dye them. And it's very, very clean. My scalp feels the best that it has ever felt with absolutely nothing. I really loved cornrows, but I found each and every time I got cornrows, even with the best pain-free stylist, like within a matter of days, my scalp would be itching profusely. So looking at patterns when my scalp is open like that, and with the braids just being open, it starts itching. So my hair doesn't like it. So it's just been a process of listening. And so these all started out double strand twists, and they're actually very, very tiny and delicate. My hair does not like a lot of pulling. This is a hair that people would be running like crazy to slick it down. I'm not slicking down nothing. I'm not doing that. To me, that's just too much stress. It's too much. And in terms of all, looking, I can tell you how many hours I've spent looking through YouTube videos to find someone that had a texture that's like this. Again, you can learn from anyone, but at this texture, this color, not very dense hairline, looking at maintenance and all of that twisting and stuff. Like I've learned about sister locks many, many years ago. I would have loved sister locks, but all of that twisting and all, that's a bit much. So I'm taking that off the table in terms of needing validation, from outside that I look attractive, and also with having to spend all this time. There's so much more time I could use for play and just being free where I'm just not worried about it. I can take that time and energy and use it for other things. So when it comes to maintenance, and so many people ask other girls, because now with social media, you can go into other people's kitchen or their bathroom, see what they're doing. So here's maintenance for me with this very thin, fine hair. That actually, if I was to twist my hair, you would see my whole scalp, right? So here's maintenance. Take a piece of this and I stick it right in the little hole. That's it. Done. Finish. Done. Party done. That's it. It is so freeing. If anything, I remember looking at, now that I think of it, over the years, you look at Caucasian other women, you'd be like, wow, they don't have to do anything. Wow, lucky them. They don't have to do anything. And so now for me to realize we don't even have to put any products in their hair, that's like freedom from hair gel. And it's hair gel. Because it's like you don't have to do anything. You can sweat, you can play. Imagine we could have been playing at the beach. We could have been having so much fun if we just realize what our hair does. And I would say definitely, as a chocolate woman with very fine hair, many women if are concerned about, are we going to go bald? But in our anxiety, we're actually causing ourselves to go bald by totally plucking out our eyebrows. Now my eyebrows don't grow back all the way now from tweezing them, tweezing them, tweezing them, tweezing them. So actually, the more I look at and I stare at myself, it's like this, I just start to appreciate myself. And even from the times where I've gone back and looked for natural mascara and even ventured into making my own mascara, I'm actually finding I like my own eyebrows and my eyelashes better because it almost feels like it starts to look a little artificial, to me. So I'm sure that that's as a result of spending those years, but taking everything off, that when I put it on, I feel like it just feels like a bit much. And so it's just very freeing. You'll have to find your own journey. I'm not here to tell anyone what to do. I'm not the food police, the hair police, none of that. But you'll find I'm just sharing my journey. And so as someone, I would have to say, I've given some thought, even as these have combined, and now you can start to see that they're flat. But I don't mind them flat. The majority of the YouTube videos you see are people like how to not have flat locks. Again, with this radical self-acceptance, this is what the hair is doing. Pretty much all of them are going to be flat, right? Even though they're a little more cylindrical down at the bottom. But definitely these don't feel as strong. Actually, a lot of this is going to break off at some point because they're so flimsy and weak where it used to be twisted. But everybody's so concerned about flat locks. I don't mind the flat locks. I don't, because when you lay down, because it's not fine and dense, this is what it does. So many of us may be concerned about alopecia. Some of us have traction alopecia from doing the most, to the hair. I have to admit I was doing the most. So Now this is like, it's a freedom. It's a freedom. So, and actually, what I'm doing now, very simply, is I see the difference between all natural shampoos that may cost a little bit more. They Your hair feels totally different, and not dried and stripped down. So now I can feel like, wow, I don't need products. And I'm actually working. I used to watch this one channel about water only washing for hair when I was a loose natural. And I was thinking, it looks like we have super similar texture hair, but her hair looks so moisturized. And she would talk a lot about the sebum that's naturally in your hair, your natural conditioner. So some of this, without a frame of reference, you're kind of like on your own journey. So I know now from massaging my hair and rinsing it in this hot temperature that there have been some times where I like, wow, my hair, I would see either this gray film. So I was like, is that minerals coming from the water, right? So some of this you'll have to find out on your own. So then I got from the States a water filter, right? And then I've been massaging my hair, but I know it got to a point where I felt like I had conditioner. I used to use Pantene conditioner back in the day. Now I don't use any of that because I found out it has silicone in it. That's actually what's making your hair soft, right? And I don't want any dangerous chemicals near my brain and my control center that can contribute to tumors or cysts. I don't want it going into my scalp. If you can put pain patches and all kind of medication on your skin, think of the implications when it comes to putting very dangerous caustic chemicals. I would say that's one of my biggest things with the beauty industry. A lot of these chemicals in the makeup and in the hair products, even in the dyes, they're extremely dangerous. Even some of the fake, if you don't watch the ingredients on the hennas, and I don't plan on dyeing my hair, some of them you can have an allergic reaction, can actually burn your skin and make your eyes swell up. So like we're putting ourselves in harm's way for the sake of beauty. What are your thoughts on hair transplant to restore edges? I have very full, thick natural afro. I accept my natural beauty, no weave, slick down, but the hair's thin to my temple. Well, I can only tell you what my thought existed since childhood. Here's what I would say now. As someone, when I first went natural, that week I had a cousin, not a cousin, excuse me, one of my besties from back in the day. I wanted to go natural. I'm trying to think maybe it was some very, um, kind of out of the norm sister. I can think of two sisters, two young women in my high school days that kind of thought out, not kind of, they thought outside to fashion and everything. One had Senegalese twist and the other one had the pillbox Nefertiti. I don't know if you remember that cut. It was like a pillbox cut, but to the side. And I wanted to cut my hair natural. I don't know if you know where I got that from. Maybe, I don't know if Kid and Play was out during that time, but there used to be an all natural hair salon called Knaps. It was like Naps, but with a K, Knaps. And they had several locations in Brooklyn. Shout out if anybody knows Knaps, remembers Knaps from back in the day. And so she used to have these funky styles, and I want to go natural. But my first boyfriend at the time was like, no, you don't cut your hair. Your hair's supposed to be long. I had a jerry curl back then. He said, you don't cut your hair. It's supposed to grow long. It's supposed to be pretty. But I was like, yeah, but I want that. He was like, well, if you cut your hair, I'm going to leave you. Can you imagine that at 16? And now looking back, even as I say it, like, wow, that's a lot of pressure. I'm just wanting to express myself. And so in his mind, not making him wrong, he's telling what his aesthetic for beauty is. Actually, that's a little possessive. But he was telling me what his aesthetic for beauty was. And then also I remember the Jerry curl. I remember Jerry curl, and was it Coming to America that was Soul Glow? Oh, I used to have the most greasy collars. I couldn't stand it. And all that curl activator on my forehead, and you got to buy this curl activator and this curl this, and you had to buy all of these products. That to me was like irritating. It was irritating, and every time you lay back on something, yes, you left a whole big greasy imprint. If you lean your head some, it was just too much drama. It was too much drama around my head. So here's what I would say: when I cut my hair off the first week, I got a pillbox cut. I felt stunning. I will never, ever forget how beautiful I felt. And the epiphany that I do not have to do anything to myself to be beautiful. I could not stop staring at I got to find that picture. I got to see if I can find that picture. I had never felt so beautiful in my life. I had a little rounded Nefertiti cut and it was faded. Oh my God. And when I went into the salon, a good friend of mine, he's still a barber. He's a master barber. he goes by Tonsorialist Dex. So if you were going to get your hair cut, oh my gosh, he was like, he's a master barber, very clean, all of that. And when I came into his shop back in the day, what was it? I think it was called African Trendsetters back in the. Oh my gosh, that was such a hot little shop out in Brooklyn. And he said, "Are you sure you want to cut your hair? Because even though it was a Jerry curl, at one point I stopped using all the curl activated and looked like I had a big curly fro. So for me to come into the shop full of men, and I was like, I want you to cut it off. He was like, Are you sure? And everybody's looking like this girl's gonna cut all that hair, right? Because you got hair. You don't cut your hair because that makes you stand out. And I was like, Yeah, cut it off. Just go ahead and cut it off. And so when he took off the first big chunk, I was like, ah. And then I was like, cut it off, take it off. And when he finished cutting my hair, honey, I could not stop looking at myself. I was like, I couldn't stop smiling. I was like, wow, I'm beautiful. I don't know if y'all get this, but this is to me a big contributor to mental health, the mental health of chocolate women, right? Because our insecurities are tremendous profit. When I've gone around the world and I see young Black women's lives compromised and the things that many chocolate women do to have money. And then I think we turn around and take a lot of those hard-earned finances, and sometimes young women putting themselves in harm's way to turn right back around to go to the beauty supply store. It's like a vicious mental cycle. I call it like a Jedi mind trick. But the epiphany that I didn't have to do anything to myself. Then I saw this model named Kimmy Kane. There was a designer, his name was Patrick Kelly. He's passed away. And his favorite muse was this voluptuous sister with a low haircut. And when I saw, I said, oh, that's it. That I want that. And so I went back the next week. And I said, cut it all off, take it all off. And again, I felt stunning. And I wore my hair like that for many years. So if anything, to answer your question, if my locks were hanging on by a shoestring, if I had alopecia or thinning, I don't have no attachment. I would cut it all off. I even went one time just to see again, right? Testing the waters, right? Testing my own insecurities, where I shaved my head totally bald, like this, bald, to see how it feel. And so I was like, it's a bit much, but I sat with myself. I sat. So this has been my own journey of radical self-acceptance, because it's like the nervousness, My grandpa, when he saw me cut my hair, said, why you cut your hair? Don't you know a woman's hair is a glory? A woman's hair is a glory. And I was like, but it's just hair, right? It's going to grow back. And so it did. And then let's say I had the peach fudge, which is one of my favorite cuts. Eventually I got my own clippers because, there's a whole subculture, a whole climate and energy around the men's barbershop. And sometimes I didn't want to hear all their jokes or whatever. You got to sit there and wait to get your hair cut. And not everybody was the cleanest if you couldn't get to your favorite barber. So eventually I got my clippers and I started cutting my own hair just to be in control of my own grooming process and my own beautification. I just this feeling I have to be subjected to somebody else's stuff. It didn't resonate with me. And so, eventually I saw this picture of this African princess with these circles cutting her hair. And I was like, oh my gosh, that is so beautiful. So I went to my favorite barber, wasn't available. One day he cut my hair like that. And then there was another time when he wasn't available and it was this barber and I wanted to go out for the weekend. So I wanted my hair done. Loving the short hair. So I went to this guy that was open because it was kind of late. I had been shopping all day. And I was like, I have a picture. Can you do this to my hair? Now, after I sat down in a barber's chair, and after he had put the cloth over me, I realized he was a little tipsy, right? And I was like, oh my gosh, this guy's going to jack my hair. I don't know, even with natural cut, somebody can jack your hair up. And I was like, oh, it's too late. He already got the clippers out. This man that was cut my hair like I was born with those circles in my head. That is one of my favorite hairstyles to this date. Like one of my favorite hairstyles. So I have no problem with short hair, whether I think I like really short or long hair. But I would have to say this is probably the longest I've experienced my hair. So I want to have that experience, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's nothing to justify. And so just any grays that come out, this is what the hair does. I found it a meditation just to sit with your is big, taking that off the table. I'm taking it off the table for companies. I'm taking it off the table for men. I remember, people asking in my family, the men like, well, what's going on with you? What's up with your sexuality? As if your hair is short, that automatically determines what your sexuality is because you're not fitting into a box. And I was like, but I just like my hair. I This is my own hair, So it's been such a journey, a journey. It's one thing to have the double strand twist and rock my little shea butters and stuff like this, but this sometimes it can not clean, so called, if I get sebum deposits on it, or especially when it starts to knot up and pill up. But I'm like, this is what my hair does. This is it. That's my meditation. This is what it does. This is what it looks like. This is what my eyebrows look like. This is what my face look like. So I think perhaps even, and I think this is important for also young women, it's one thing to beautify, but can we notice if it's a cover up, if we're really covering up a lack of security or insecurity or lack of feeling secure, in ourselves, because it is extremely profitable. And I think sometimes we underestimate these little things. And so at this point, I would say health, at least in my experience, is the number one beauty product. If I take, let's say, for example, the way that I eat, which is I like to focus more than a label on cruelty free, right? Cruelty free eating first to my own brain, right? Many of us may think the skin and the muscles, but I'm eating, if my brain is the control center and I don't want to put these caustic chemicals on my scalp to go down, and that can contribute to tumors and cysts, right? That if I don't want to put harmful chemicals there, then why would I want to jack up my brain? Anything that's compromising my brain is no bueno. Something could still happen, but I make an effort to be 110% responsible. So anything also that's compromising my heart, my kidney, my liver, we're not thinking of the organs, but all of these different caustic chemicals that we're voluntarily putting onto our hair, body, skin, underarms is going into the bloodstream. And it's like there's a disconnect, right? We're not having quite often the conversation about how these things over time, over years and years and years, your body gets worn out, kind of like a cell phone. All of these different things were piling up in the body at expensive prices, right? If we had to look at the amount of money we spent on perms and hair salons and all the stuff that leaches economics and resources out of our community, and we don't even control the means of production, and contributes to ill health and low esteem because you take that stuff away. Like, for example, look at the time where now people can't get to their the beauty supply store, and some people still breaking their neck to try to get in to get some other hair, right? So again, not demonizing people's food, or excuse me, their food or their beautification um, rituals or their choices. But if we just look at the economic implications, like, tell me, y'all look and see how much money is the industry. Is the industry primarily owned by the people that have this unique beauty stamp? Do we control the means of production? Can we say that if we're going to wear nail polish, that they're cruelty-free nail polishes that don't have formaldehyde and very dangerous things? If we don't have some kind of check and balance system, then this gets passed down to our young women. So there's not even a standard for health that these products are safe. And we keep allowing somebody else, the FDA and everybody else, to set the standards for what is acceptable. Is there any kind of standard for health? Is there any kind of standard for representation of who's on the box? Or do we do the switch and bake where so and so and lovely now they have a couple of models with our stuff on it? But when's the last time you saw a tremendous amount of scholarships for health and women going into the health or hair field being offered by those particular companies? So beautiful, and all chocolate sisters are beautiful. I wish that sisters could really feel that in their soul. So yeah, it's been a journey. So again, I'm not here to tell grown folks what to do. That is a no-no. But I would say that I encourage girls to take it off the table. Take the validation, even from the men in your family. It's wonderful if we have that support, but we're not in a position. I had baking soda on my arm. We're not in a position, we don't have the luxury to wait for validation, because what's at stake is our esteem, our mental and emotional health. Take it off the table. This has so much larger implications, so much. Many of us growing up without protection, or a vetting process, right? Where before somebody crosses the threshold to try to to approach you, right? To get into your drawers, get into your psyche. There's no one checking them. I still remember when folks would say, "What's up with the person's family? What's up with that person's family? They got crazy in their family or whatever." There was still some semblance of a check and balance. And now, for many folks growing up in where the parents are not together, quite often there are a lot of irresponsible adults, or just no protective presence around. So it is really, I'm not one to sit and wait. No offense to other folks, whatever your religious beliefs, but I'm not one to sit and wait. I think just praying without being proactive. I used to tell my mom, "Why y'all not praying and power walking at the church?" I don't get it. Doesn't work for me. I'm not there at all. It is not for us to wait for validation. So I say take it off the table. And if we perhaps allow our health as a value to be the beauty product, think of the implications. You don't need to buy bigger clothing sizes. Your body, your divine vessel, while we are on this plane, we don't know what's going to happen in the next life. But while we are here in this plane, this body has a natural intelligence. It can actually fall. And hopefully, this is helpful to somebody out there. Your body, and I'm saying this to somebody that's been in the fitness industry for years and it has a lot of obesity in my family. Your body will fall to a healthy weight when you stop putting junk in it. If your body right now is communicating, your skin is communicating to you about your health. So if nothing else, if we just pause for a second, your body's constantly communicating something to you. Your energy levels, your elimination, your skin. If you cover it all up, you can't see. And there are many of us that are covering up the issues that are going on with our health, so you can't see it. Even for a lot of men folk, that love to look at something beautiful, I wonder if they ever consider, you can't tell if you're not being educated in the way that culturally would come from those older women to tell you what to look for. For example, I would say this, and many people would say this is, you know, you can say whatever, but I would tell my son, listen, if you see a young woman, she eats a whole lot of junk food and she has very, very tight jeans on and she doesn't drink water, it's very likely that she might have a yeast infection. Mom, why are you saying that? But I'm just saying something that's very, very practical. So your skin, if your skin is breaking out, but we're not being educated, this is not to demonize. If your body, like my body, does not like a whole lot of fats, it does not like fried fats and cooked fats. I'm grateful because your body can be so compromised that it doesn't respond. Like let's say you broke the cell phone, you dropped it in the water so many times and it's cracked. Now you don't even get a signal on it. So if your body is still breaking out, your liver is trying to tell you something, and your liver is very important to detoxing poisons out of your body. Nobody's thinking about the organs. Nobody's thinking about the organs. That's why my business many years ago, I called it Body-Culinary, because I love the therapeutic um, value of fitness and how good it made me feel. And then also, when I went to culinary school, it was really to make food more attractive for my people. Because I was like, if anything looks pretty, we'll go after it. We're not even reading the ingredients, half the time. But it's like your health. It was very frustrating and embarrassing to, at one point when I was like very ripped up, in the fitness industry, have this like really, femininely chiseled body and toned body, and then have all this acne on my face and eating very, very healthfully for many years. But there were some other things that it took me years to see the patterns of what I was doing that was contributing to my acne. And then also acknowledging that all those years of eating junk, do we think it just disappears in one or two bowel movements? We got a lot of crap. This is very practical. That's in the system that has to come out. And our largest eliminative organ is what? Is the skin. So if we're constantly covering up things, we can't see what's going on. If we're constantly covering up our nails, right? We can't see, what's going on. And so there are some more healthful products, but I keep them to a minimum. I've tried, vegan nail polish, but a lot of times I like to sit. I don't like to become too addicted to anything, right? Well, I feel less beautiful if I don't have these things. So I'm very wary of anything where I don't feel comfortable. It's not that I don't groom and beautify and take good care of the very best of myself, but anything where I'm feeling like I don't feel as confident when I remove these things. So again, I take it off the table so that someone is not going to manipulate me or profit from me feeling insecure. Where I have to run out and buy something overpriced that is putting my body temple in harm's way, or that is in my psyche where I have to get this product in order for me to feel like I'm attractive to somebody. So I'm really in radical self acceptance. I'm accepting it. I'm setting the standard, and health is my priority. And health is me being very relaxed and comfortable in my skin, if that makes sense. Yeah, so I just came on just today to just share around radical self-acceptance. So I'm not one for a whole bunch of big fancy setups, all that stuff. I just like to come and just share real, and hopefully this can be of some kind of benefit to folks, because all of this has, again, as someone that's worked in the health and nutrition, natural health and nutrition field for many, many years. I'm someone that sees patterns, and I would say, and we can see in terms of what's going on with this whole situation with the Rona, that it's not just our community, but definitely, and it's even come out of some officials' mouths, that very high percentage of chocolate folks are receiving the results of compromised immune system from our lifestyle, right? All those things that we've known to do for years, that we just have not activated. And so it's not about making right or wrong, but you let me know. It was never so vocal that diabetes is compromised. You have a compromised immune system. That wasn't said before. Not that we should have needed that, but that's why I say discernment is everything. We're in an age of discernment. Anything come, you could be chocolate, rasta, pasta, politician. I don't care who you're talking about. I turn down the volume and I look at patterns, behavior, and character only. If there's a conflict of interest and somebody just looking to benefit from my insecurity, I'm paying attention. We're in a time of cult personality worship where everyone goes along like sheep. Everybody's giving applause and clapping, even when stuff is off. And if any of you folks ever check any of the research or the documentaries on Jim Jones, great example. It wasn't my generation, but when I went back and I looked at the whole Jim Jones thing, and they had a recording when he was making some of his final speeches before he's about to give folks the cyanide and the Kool-Aid, right? Drink the Kool-Aid. Folks were still kind of in euphoria. Yeah, I'm following, this fantasy of what I want to be, and they were about to be out. Some of them in the last moments, only realized that the people in their congregation had guns and they couldn't leave, and that they would be forced to drink the cyanide. And by then it was too late, right? So, and then also, I know we like to think of the little cards we get at funerals, and now I leadeth me behind the still waters, but the life cycle in real life of a sheep are usually slaughtered. Correct me if I'm incorrect. So it is such a time to slow down and question when there's a conflict. You're invited. I don't tell grown folks what to do, but to question things that sometimes we may be holding on to dogmatically because it's a tradition or it's a culture. It could be coming from the collective culture as a nation, or the country you live in, or culturally, or if you have two different cultures. It's a time to question and use your discernment, because a lot of things we just don't question and we follow blindly. And quite often we're putting ourselves in harm's way, and it is profitable. It is profitable. So radical self-acceptance in the most simple, profound way. And we take for granted a lot of our simple habits, our consumption habits. The consumption of our food, consumption of what we're listening to. It's not necessarily necessary to follow a leader, or you're a cult leader, or a personality, or an entertainer, because you like them, or you like their singing ability, or you may like some things that I say and other things you may not agree with. You have your own mind. But it's interesting, this mob mentality that you see quite often in social media, because people like a personality will overlook their character. And so I'm very wary. I'm very, very wary, without being paranoid, but I'm very wary of when there's a conflict of interest, and I step back and look at character, behavior, and patterns. Is there reciprocity? Is whoever I'm investing in, whether it's a company or a person, do they have my best interest? Is there any kind of integrity? And so only I, with radical self acceptance, for me, I found gives you a lot of peace of mind and clarity. And so, no, for example, I may not be chosen by everyone if I don't have a weave or I don't have makeup on, but that's okay because I choose me. And having a solid foundation of radical self acceptance, I would dare say you're more than likely going to get another kind of result because you have a standard of yourself, of protecting yourself, of self preservation, of a high standard for what you will consume, what you won't consume. I won't consume something that I think is unhealthy, not from my mother, not from Obama, not if the Prophet Muhammad or Jesus. If this doesn't work for me, I'm not going to consume your alcohol, your drugs. I'm not going to do it to fit in. So it's a mentality, if you will, or at least I found it's a mentality. So I know, just I'm on this journey, and it's a continual journey of over about 30 years of radical self acceptance and self love in action. What it looks like, and so that's meant dropping off a lot of things. It's definitely meant questioning, if I say that I love myself, then why would I put myself in harm's way with what I'm eating as if it's entertainment? And knowing I feel very comfortable in knowing there's plenty for me to eat. I have so much to choose from. I have so many different ways I can prepare it. So that I've taken off the table. I've taken that as a conflict of interest. I've taken that off the table. And it's really benefited me. If you go back and look, for years, I've been doing these food hauls because, again, when I think of what I call the ways of and the grandmothers, it's simple. Why should I have to go in a health food store for a bottle of something that's been sitting in a warehouse for years? Like, I can't see my grandmothers doing that. It doesn't make sense. They really had to use and make the best use and maximize the resources that were available to them. So I really feel like I channel my grandmothers, their common sense. It doesn't make sense to put ourselves in harm's way, and it's not necessary. So I'm okay with not being chosen, because if I'm not being chosen by something, it's not for me. I choose me. I choose me, and am willing to let a lot of stuff fall to the wayside that's not for me, and not, if you can kind of feel what I'm saying. So radical self acceptance. I invite you, try it on for size, because if I knew then what I know now, I would just take the whole thing. I have no problem taking the scissors, cutting it all off, throwing things in the garbage. You can have it. Nothing is worth my life and my health. Nothing. I'm not going to put myself in harm's way when it comes to being physically abused, mentally abused. That could be by a person, a company, if I'm being disrespected, clients. Folks could fire you. You could fire them too. You could fire folks too. You can remove yourself. And I'm also willing to do without certain things to have my personal integrity and my mental and my emotional health. So I just wanted to share that with you. Blindly following, yeah, this is a time. This is a time. But we're volunteering ourselves. In my readings over the years, as I was reading, I was always questioning. Even when I was younger, I had questions about slavery, watching Roots, and I've watched it numerous times over the years. I remember, when I was a little girl and I was watching, I was like, how come they're reading the same book, but somebody is a master and somebody's a slave? I was like, I remember thinking they must have a different understanding of that book. And then just question, I've always been fascinated around what drives human behavior. If I'm watching folks drunk, abusing their wives, like, why do they do that? Or if you knew that a drug was going to totally mess up your teeth and destroy your hair and your physical presence, like, why would you do that? I knew there was a reason. So and just questioning and paying attention, you could see why. Usually I found it's trauma. Usually trauma of abandonment, trauma from many people being sexualized inappropriately at a young age. It's a lot of society. I know we don't like to talk about it, especially as a cultural group, but it's a lot of trauma. So again, all roads lead back to a simple, natural lifestyle where I take a lot of off the table when it comes to somebody determining how I feel about myself. Um, yeah, and what I'm modeling for my nieces. Again, I'm not this perfect human being. I'm definitely not a religious human being. You know, I got a pole right here for my own personal pole fitness, you know, but I also feel a way when I turn on my computer and I see a lot of young women putting ourselves in harm's way for attention. There is a why. There is a reason why. There is a reason why. And so, being a mom and wanting to be efficient, you know, as a parent, I found that it's more efficient, and even working with clients, it's more efficient if I figure out the why and how do we motivate somebody without having to tell them what to do, because then that's an exercise in futility and frustration because we don't control, you know, other humans. You're lucky if you're fortunate if you can control your own self, but that really means understanding the way our mind works and our mentality works. You have whole companies that spend billions of dollars that understand how to get triggered responses to get us how to go into the stores and clear the shelves of toilet paper, you know, or buy expensive caustic perfumes that sometimes I wonder, there's nothing more attractive than a man that just smells simple and clean. It's all this cologne and it's expensive. There's so many Jedi mind tricks. So anybody know what a Jedi mind trick out there is? Let me know, you know, in the comments. But I'm about to jump off of this because I have some work to do in the garden. So I am just wishing you all affirming that you create a great day on purpose. And I invite you just to explore radical self acceptance. How do you feel when you remove all the fluff? You know, do you feel beautiful? And your body will fall to a natural body weight. Your skin will clear up if we just pause and stop putting the stuff in it. The body is a self healing mechanism. The regenerative organs, you know, our female self cleansing when we stop putting stuff into it, whether that's toxic people that don't really have your best interest, that are willing to put you in harm's way. Putting yourself in harm's way is a mentality. It's a mentality. So that's much bigger to me than the label. All right, folks, I'm gonna jump off here. Create a great day. Do subscribe to the channel. Share this video maybe with a young woman or a peer or somebody that could use some motivation. Yeah, you are so welcome. You're so welcome. So at some point, I'll figure out what the time schedule for this is, but usually I will post or go live on Sundays, right? And so there's the Black Raw Vegan Food and Fitness channel that I have with my sister. I do post things from the garden and different motivational pics on Instagram. Um, Facebook, I've started to use it more live, but there's a lot of predatorial energy on YouTube, but I found to a greater degree on Facebook. So it's, you know, it's all a learning experience and learning how to create healthy boundaries. So healthy boundaries are critical. If you're a people pleaser, you can wind up putting yourself, again, there's no self-preservation. And self-preservation and security is a reality of life. All right, folks, subscribe to the channel. See you in another video.